Today we will talk about Velo and kind of tie in XLM primarily because Velo's settlement relies on Stellar. I have not kept up with Velo a whole lot only because of all of its announcements, and I have been struggling to keep it all organized. In April of 2024, they published a gold tokenization white paper, which we will be reviewing today. And it is interesting because a lot of the recent announcements, and specifically the gold tokenization, as well as tokenization of treasury bonds with Open Eden and BlackRock, tie into what Velo was explaining about how Velo is the rails into BRICS. The highlights are called out well here, and it involves Velo, Solana, and Pacific Bullion Import-Export. Pacific Bullion is the entity who is responsible for the custody of the physical gold. Lightnet is responsible for the conversion of the PLG tokens back into fiat. And Solana is kind of acting as a liquidity provider and provides access into the infrastructure and ties they have established. Velo itself is uniquely positioned to be able to increase in value and price because of its unique three-leg contract with its digital credits, which are collateralized with stablecoins, fiat, or other kinds of tokenized values such as gold and Velo tokens, which get locked up and reduce the available supply. Velo's Universe platform is also important here because you are able to trade almost anything there, including gold. And then Orbit finally is rolled out. The activity on the network combined with all of the tokenized value could potentially result in a rapid increase in price. Before I get into the white paper itself, there are some larger macroeconomic factors here too. And just because I have a lot of notes on this, and I tend to have a lot harder of a time on my speech if I just read off of a screen, I will have AI help out to explain this before we get into the review of the white paper and its potential impacts.
Velo is using NovaChain with their Universe trading platform, which is connected into Solana, Ethereum, and Binance Smart Chain. Velo is issued on Stellar and BNB. Velo created a token, PLG, that represents 1 ounce of physical gold that is held in custody with PBE, a well-established company in London, trusted by Royal Mint. It's a big player with a lot of buy-in. PLG tokens fit perfectly with the Bank of International Settlement new rules, as it is 100% backed. PLG offers an innovative solution to fundamental trade-offs with this digitized, high-quality gold stored in vaults, accessible only by secured and audited companies. When tokenized, PLG enables everyone to own fractions of this gold, which address core challenges of gold markets that are controlled by LBMA and COMEX, and democratizes gold ownership because it allows people to buy grams and ounces. Anyone with those wallets can trade and send gold peer-to-peer, including with Velo's Universe trading platform and Orbit wallet. This has outcompeted all of these banks like those associated with LMB and COMEX. Velo just brought the traditional custody aspect with blockchain and can settle essentially for free. They're outcompeting banks with no low fees on cheap L1S XLM. Given the backing of PLG token, they can be utilized as a reserve asset within the banking system. They're providing a solution for the banks that complaining they can't meet the BIS requirements. Now they can back the assets. They can't manipulate the metals markets as much, but they can do it. Adoption of this new system will be insane. PLG tokens serve as a seamless bridge between fiat and gold, fiat and foreign exchange, cross-border transactions, etc. Banks can use the DEX, use the tokens, and hold them on their books to get the gold required with the new rules. PLG can be sent all over via Lightnet Pay in-out network and can then go back into traditional financial system. The agreement with Solana was what it was all about. This white paper explained the Velo and Solana posts. Velo is clearing house via Stellar, while Solana is the settlement. Velo partnered with Osiris. They're a gold spot bullion market in Asia, with revenue of $5.5 billion. It can use Orbit to give their customers access to use PLG tokens.
Here I will have AI help again on actually explaining the white paper itself and expanding on the possibilities here, which will roughly explain all of the content in a much easier format than if I tried to just read out of here and provide commentary.
The Pacific LightNet Gold Token.
PLG?
Yeah, PLG. We knew we had to do a deep dive for.
I had to unpack it all.
So we're diving deep into the Pacific LightNet Gold e-token white paper published April 2024.
Right.
Trying to figure out, is this really going to revolutionize gold? And what does it mean for the everyday investor, like you and me?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
So the white paper kicks off by talking about this paradox with gold investing, right? On the one hand, you've got owning physical gold, like the ultimate security, right?
Right.
But then good luck actually using it for anything.
Yeah, you're not going to walk into a store and buy groceries with a gold bar, are you?
Not unless you want to break off a tiny piece and hope they have a scale.
It's not exactly practical for everyday transactions.
And then you've got the other side, like those gold derivatives, ETFs, futures contracts.
Right, super easy to trade, but
Yeah.
you never actually own the gold itself.
So you're kind of just betting on the price without actually, having any skin in the game.
It's like playing a game with Monopoly money. You might win, but it's not real.
What do you think about this whole dilemma? How big of a deal is this, really?
Well, it all comes down to trust.
Gold has always been this symbol of stability,
Yeah.
a safe haven for centuries. Right?
Yeah.
Think about ancient Egypt empires built on gold, the gold standard.
People love that tangible asset, something they can see and hold.
Exactly. It's primal almost.
Yeah.
It represents real value, something that endures.
Right.
But our financial systems, they've gotten so complex that connection to the actual asset, it's gotten weaker.
And that's where PLG comes in, right? They're trying to bridge that gap.
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
So you're basically saying, hey, we've got these giant 400-ounce gold bars.
Wow. Locked up tight in a vault. And each PLG token represents a piece of that gold.
So you're getting the security of actual gold, but with the ease of digital trading because it's all on the blockchain.
Okay, so let's break down that blockchain part. I know a lot of our listeners are familiar with the basics, but how does it actually work with a digital gold token like PLG?
So think of blockchain like a giant digital ledger. It's constantly being updated and verified by a whole network of computers.
Right. So instead of just trusting one institution to say, yeah, that gold's really there, you've got this whole network backing it up.
Exactly. It's all about transparency. You can see every transaction, every change of ownership. It's tamper-proof.
And because it's digital, you can buy smaller pieces of gold, right? You don't need to buy a whole bar.
Right. You could buy a fraction of an ounce if you wanted to. It makes gold accessible to way more people.
The white paper calls it the democratization of gold. Is that really what's happening here? Are we all about to become gold bugs?
Well, it certainly has the potential to open up gold to a wider audience.
Right.
But we got to remember, this is still a developing space. Tokenization. It's this whole new concept, taking a real-world asset like gold and turning it into a digital token that you can trade.
So it's not just about gold.
Yeah.
This technology could be used for all kinds of assets, right? Like real estate or even art.
Absolutely. The possibilities are huge, but it's still early days. Investors need to do their research, understand the risks.
So not a get-rich-quick scheme, but potentially game-changing if you're smart about it.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we've talked about accessibility.
Mhm.
What other benefits does the white paper highlight?
Well, they talk a lot about lower transaction costs since you're cutting out the middlemen.
Makes sense.
And then there's 2047 trading. You're not limited by traditional market hours anymore.
That's going to be appealing to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. And then there's the increased liquidity. You can easily convert PLG back to cash if you need to. It's more flexible.
Out of all those benefits, which ones stand out to you the most?
I think for me, it's the potential to reduce market manipulation. The traditional gold market. It can be pretty shady.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But with blockchain, you get that transparency and immutability. It levels the playing field, makes things fairer.
That's a really interesting point. It's not just about convenience. It's about making the whole system more trustworthy.
Exactly.
Speaking of trust, there's a part in the white paper that caught my eye. It talks about PLG's role in Laos, Seems like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is. They're talking about potentially using PLG as a reserve asset to support their local currency and boost financial stability.
That's a bold idea. Is that even feasible?
Well, it's ambitious, but the logic is there's, a stable, tangible asset backing a digital token that's easy to transfer and track. It could be a powerful tool for emerging economies.
So we're talking benefits not just for investors, but for whole countries and financial systems.
That's the big picture they're painting, and it's all tied into this idea of financial inclusion, giving everyone access to the same opportunities.
This is a lot to unpack. It feels like PLG is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how blockchain could change the financial world.
Oh, absolutely. We're just scratching the surface here.
Let's take a moment to dive into some of the key players behind PLG, who are the brains behind this operation.
Let's do it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Yeah, it really does make you think what's possible.
And speaking of possibilities, let's talk about the people behind PLG. The white paper mentions some pretty interesting partners who are the masterminds behind all this.
Yeah, let's take a look.
First one that jumps out is Pacific Bullion Import-Export. They seem to be the ones handling the actual, physical gold.
Right, they're a subsidiary of PTL Holdings, which is a huge company in Laos.
Okay, so they've got a deep understanding of the market there.
Yeah, and they've got their hands in all sorts of businesses, from petroleum to logistics, like a really diverse portfolio.
So they know what they're doing.
And Pacific Bullion specifically, they handle all the sourcing, handling the storage of the gold that backs those PLG tokens. So they're the gold experts in this whole thing.
Exactly.
Okay, what about Velo Labs? What's their role?
They're the tech wizards. They're the ones who actually built the PLG token on the blockchain.
So they're the architects of the digital infrastructure.
They handle all the smart contracts,
Right.
the tokenization process, making sure everything is secure and transparent.
It's like they're bridging the gap between the physical gold and the digital world.
A perfect way to put it.
Okay, so we've got the gold experts, we've got the blockchain experts. Who else is involved?
Well, there's LightNet. They're a fintech company specializing in payment solutions.
Ah, so they're the ones who make sure PLG can actually be used for transactions.
Exactly. They make it easy to convert PLG back into regular currency and vice versa. They handle all the payment stuff.
So they're like the connection to the real-world financial system.
Yeah, and they're really focused on regulatory compliance, which is huge in the crypto world.
Makes sense. You got to make sure everything is above board.
Absolutely, especially with all the regulations constantly changing.
So let me get this straight. We've got Pacific Bullion handling the gold Velo Labs, building the blockchain, and LightNet, making sure it all works seamlessly and legally. That's quite the team.
A real dream team.
And the white paper makes it clear that this is not just about launching another token, it's about creating a whole new financial system.
Right. They're talking about using PLG to back stablecoins to make remittances easier, and even maybe as a reserve asset for central banks.
That's pretty ambitious.
It is, but with this team and this technology, it's not impossible.
So we're talking about benefits that go way beyond just individual investors. This could have an impact on whole economies.
Absolutely. It's about creating a more accessible and transparent system for everyone.
Okay, let's bring it back to our listeners for a second. They've been doing their research on PLG. What are some of the key things they should keep in mind?
Well, first off, I think it's important to recognize that this is a truly unique concept. It's not just another cryptocurrency. It's about solving a real problem in the gold market.
Balancing security with accessibility.
Exactly. And the fact that they've got Pacific Bullion involved, a company with a long history in the gold business, that brings a lot of credibility.
And Velo Labs being the blockchain experts that gives them serious tech credentials.
Right. And then LightNet ensuring everything is user-friendly and compliant with regulations. It's a really well-rounded project.
So it's not just some fly-by-night operation.
Not at all, but at the same time, it's important to remember that this is still a new and developing space. Tokenization is still in its early stages, and there are risks involved.
No investment is a sure thing.
Exactly. Listeners need to do their research, understand the technology, and weigh the risks carefully.
Sound advice as always.
And it's important to stay informed about the regulations around cryptocurrencies and tokenized assets because things are changing all the time.
That's a great point. Now, but before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about PLG being part of a larger vision for a more accessible financial system.
Oh, yeah, that's a really exciting aspect of all this.
What could that future look like if this vision becomes a reality?
Well, it could be pretty amazing.
So let's bring it all home for our listeners. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive into PLG?
Well, I think the biggest one is that this is something really new. It's taking something old gold and combining it with something new, blockchain technology. It's like they're creating this bridge between the tangible and the digital world.
Yeah, and in doing so, they're solving some of the biggest problems with traditional gold investing, like the security, the accessibility, the risk of manipulation.
It's not just about making it easier to buy and sell gold, it's about making the whole system more transparent and fair.
And that's what's so exciting about it. It's about giving everyone a chance to own gold, not just the wealthy few.
It's a real game changer, and we've talked about how it goes beyond just individuals. This could impact whole economies.
Yeah, imagine countries using a gold-backed digital token to stabilize their currencies. It's a huge opportunity.
But of course, with any new technology, there are risks. We have to be realistic about that.
Absolutely. Tokenization is still in its early stages, and the regulations are still being figured out. So listeners need to do their homework, understand the technology and the risks before they invest.
Exactly. There's no such thing as a guaranteed win.
But even beyond the investment potential, this whole idea of tokenization, it really opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Think about all the other things that could be tokenized: real estate, art, intellectual property. The potential is limitless.
It's mind-blowing, and it brings us to our final question for our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
If this vision of a more accessible and transparent financial system really takes hold, what kind of impact will it have on the world? What new opportunities will it create? What challenges will we face?
These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as we enter this new era of finance.
It's been an incredible journey exploring PLG with you, and we hope our listeners are feeling just as inspired as we are to learn more about blockchain and tokenization.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this exciting new world.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deeper into the world around you.